let's talk about defunding the police. So this was a big issue nationally, and Minneapolis will dismantle its police force, council members pledge, saying the existing police department cannot be reformed. A majority of the city council has promised to rethink public safety from the ground up in the wake of George Floyd's killing. And that was from the Minnesota City Council. I don't know if you guys also saw in LA, Los Angeles Mayor Garcetti plans to cut $100 million. Anywhere between 100 to 150 million from the LAPD budget, funds to be reinvested in communities of color. So this was a big deal, a big talking point for pundits. So first off, let's start off with what it means, because I've seen a lot of people that actually that don't understand what this means. So defunding rather the police, what you should know. So let me read this quick aside here. It says, across the nation, we are seeing unrelenting public protests and calls for action in response to the recent murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor at the hands of the police. The continued abuse of power, blatant disregard for black lives, and refusal to hold officers accountable by law has sent the country into a rage. The anger has sparked the belief that the only way to entirely eradicate police brutality is by defunding them altogether. The concept of defending the police isn't new. However, it is gaining popularity in light of recent events. So, what does it even mean? Are people calling to eradicate the use of police force? No, not necessarily. By defunding the police, cities would be allowed to reallocate a portion of their budgeted funds back into the communities in order to provide or expand social services to support the citizens. However, there are some supporters who call to dismantle the police force as a whole, as a large majority of people do not feel protected or served by law enforcement. So yeah, there are actually quite a few calls to defund the police. Now, I did read an article on CNN, and they basically talked about, where does Minneapolis specifically go from here? And they gave an example of Camden, New Jersey. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Camden, but for several years, like in the 90s and the early 2000s, Camden, along with like Elizabeth, New Jersey, and cities like that, were consistently on the country's most dangerous cities list.
Yeah.
And about 7 years ago, Camden, New Jersey disbanded. Oh, sorry, guys. Siri wanted to be a part of the podcast. So about 7 years ago, the city of Camden disbanded its police department. And this is a CNN article as well. And they offer just some information. So let me read this really quickly. Why do departments dissolve police? Says the city's decision to dissolve its police department is often a matter of money, and the cities that choose to do so are often quite small. Camden comes closest to Minneapolis in its size and history of misconduct. So let me see. Camden dissolved its police department to root out corruption, actually. The city's crime rate was among the worst in the U.S. Within 9 square miles and among nearly 75,000 residents, there were over 170 open-air drug markets reported in 2013, county officials told CNN. Violent crime abounded. Police corruption was at the core. Lawsuits filed against the department uncovered that officers routinely planted evidence on suspects, fabricated reports, and committed perjury. After the corruption was exposed, courts overturned the convictions of 88 people, and that was in 2013 alone. So in 2012, officials voted to completely disband the department because it was beyond reform. Fast forward to now, violent crimes have dropped 42% in 7 years, according to city crime data provided by the department. The crime rate has dropped from 79 per 1,000 people to 44 per 1,000 people, the data shows. So, Capelli, who is, I he's the mayor of Camden, says that he credited the improvement to the new community-oriented policing, which prizes partnership and problem solving over violence and punishment. It starts from an officer's first day. When a new recruit joins the force, they're required to knock on the doors of homes in the neighborhood they're assigned to patrol, he said. They introduce themselves and ask neighbors what needs improving, which I thought was dope as fuck.
Yeah.